Welcome to the special meeting of Wyndham City Council on this Tuesday, the 13th of June 2017. In the spirit of reconciliation, before we begin this meeting, I acknowledge the peoples of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which Wyndham is being built, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Please stand for the opening prayer. We pray for guidance in the Council's decision-making to achieve the best outcome for the people of Wyndham. Thank you. I'd like to welcome members of the gallery, the press, councillors and staff here tonight for the special council meeting. Some of you may have seen the notices in the foyer, but for those of you who didn't, I'd like to make you aware of the following. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the internet. The recording will be archived and made available on Council's website. Whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. This special meeting of Council is called to hear submissions from the public under Section 223 of the Local Government Act 1989. In relation to the Draft City Plan 2017 to 2021 and Proposed Integrated Plan and Budget 2017-2018. Madam CEO, are there any apologies and requests for leave?
No, Mr Mayor, there are not.
I'd just like to mention that I seek leave of absence be noted for myself for the 21st to the 26th of May 2017, which was a couple of weeks ago where I was away on leave. Thank you. Item 3 is declaration by councillors of disclosure of conflict of interest or conflicting personal interest in any item of the agenda. Oh, I should say apologies and requests of leave. I need a mover. Councillor Gibbons. Sorry, I missed that one. Second that, Councillor McElhaney. No. Councillors, is there any discussion on that item? If not, I shall put it. All those in favour? Against, it's carried. Now, declaration by councillors. Councillors, does anyone have any conflicts of interest that they may wish to flag in relation to tonight's agenda? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a conflict of interest on the football club submission and the cricket club submission, but as it is not being voted on tonight and it's not, I will be staying in the council chamber to hear these submissions.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Marcus. Councillors, the next item is Officers' Reports 4.1. Consideration of submissions regarding the proposed integrated plan and budget 2017-18 and Council's Draft City Plan 2017 to 2021. Now, we need a mover for that motion. Councillor Hooper, a seconder, Councillor Maynard. Councillors, any discussion on that item? If there isn't any, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Councillors, the next item, so that we can move into to hearing submissions, I call for a motion to suspend standing orders. Can I have a mover? Councillor Khan. Seconded, Councillor Villagonzalo. Okay, Councillor Khan, can you read out the motion, please? You don't have that? No. It's not there. That standing orders be suspended to hear submissions on the proposed integrated plan and budget 2017-18 and the Council's Draft City Plan for 2017-2021. Is there any debate or discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? It's carried. Now, to get into the substantive part of the submissions. This meeting has been called to hear public submissions on the proposed Draft City Plan 2017-2021 and Integrated Plan and Budget 2017-18. Developing a city plan and budget will meet the residents' needs in a growing city like Wyndham is a big challenge. I know a lot of work has been done by Council and the officers in developing this integrated city plan and budget over the past months. However, it is very important that our residents also get the opportunity to be involved in the planning of Wyndham's future. The Wyndham City Plan sets out the priorities which will guide the work to be provided by Council over the next 4 years, and the budget focuses on the priorities for the next 12 months as outlined in the first year of the Wyndham City Plan. This year, we have received a high number of submissions for both the proposed integrated city plan and budget. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for taking the time to provide their feedback and participate in this process. I wish to advise all submitters that no decision will be made at this meeting this evening. All submissions will be considered and the final report will be provided at the ordinary council meeting on Tuesday the 27th of June 2017. As Council received a large number of submitters requesting to speak this evening, each registered speaker will be allocated a maximum of 5 minutes to present on their submission. I will be calling each submitter to the lectern one at a time to make their presentation. Please use the microphone provided. Once at the lectern, please advise your name and if you are representing an organisation, the name of the organisation. At the conclusion of each presentation, councillors will be given the opportunity to ask questions, only if they wish to seek further clarification. We will be commencing with the public submissions on the Draft City Plan 2017-2021. Now, I must point out, ladies and gentlemen, that you do get 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, if you haven't finished, I'll just say 60 seconds to let you know that you've got 1 more minute to go, which you need to finish off at the end of that 60 seconds. At the conclusion of each applicant's presentation, please thank them and ask councillors if they have any questions. So, the first person on my list for the Draft City Plan is Robin Gregory of the Women's Health West. Robin?
Okay. Good evening and thank you for the opportunity to present on our submission to the draft Wyndham City Plan. My name is Dr. Robin Gregory. I'm Chief Executive Officer of Women's Health West. I'd like to also begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present and to any community members who join us this evening. Women's Health West is the regional women's health service for Melbourne's Western Metropolitan region. We provide specialist family violence services to women and their children and deliver prevention programs that promote equity and justice for women and girls in Melbourne's West. Women's Health West is the lead agency for a regional strategy and partnership to prevent men's violence against women, known as Preventing Violence Together. We're also the lead agency for a regional action plan and partnership to promote sexual and reproductive health in Melbourne's Western region, known as Action for Equity. Wyndham City Council is a valued member of both of those initiatives. We're also a proud partner of Council, have been for many years, and support the important work that Wyndham Council has undertaken in collaboration with our organisation and our staff, and no doubt many of our clients. We believe that local government, as the tier of government closest to our community, plays an integral role in increasing women's health, safety and wellbeing. Our key recommendations to strengthen the plan include Council clearly identifying the health and wellbeing strategies and indicators across the plan's 4 themes. This will raise the profile and visibility of health and wellbeing within the plan. We commend Council for an integrated plan and also point to the notion that having really specific strategies around health, safety and wellbeing make sure they stay at the fore. To ensure Council delivers on government requirements as part of the Victorian Royal Commission into Family Violence, we recommend that Council strengthen its commitment to gender equity by incorporating measurable gender equity indicators within the plan. To meet this aim, we recommend Council include in the plan actions to promote women's participation in leadership and decision-making at all levels of Council and the wider community, ensure equal remuneration between women and men employed by Council, ensure equitable workplace policies and conditions are in place, such as superannuation contributions for maternity leave and family flexible workplace conditions. Such initiatives would position Council as a leader in gender equity workplace practice, as well as leading the primary prevention of men's violence against women. We recommend that Council include clear strategic objectives and indicators that measure sexual and reproductive health promotion in the plan. We also encourage Council to include actions that relate to its partnership work with Action for Equity and Preventing Violence Together. We recommend that Council embed gender responsive budgeting principles into financial and non-financial resource allocation as part of Council's strategic resource plan. We also suggest that Council ensure that the plan's objectives and strategies are specific and measurable and supported by a high-level evaluation framework that measures the collective impact of Council's efforts. By embedding these actions within the plan, Council will strengthen its efforts to promote women's health, safety and wellbeing. Such efforts will also work towards equitable, fair and just outcomes for all communities that reside in the Wyndham municipality. And I would point to our submission for greater detail, but thank you very much for the opportunity to point to some key initiatives tonight and ask whether you have any questions.
Oh, thank you for that.
Welcome.
Councillors, any questions of Robin? Thank you. Very succinct.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you. The second speaker tonight is Rowan Wary. Not here? Okay. We shall move on. The third speaker tonight on the draft city plan is Jeff Rogers. Thank you, Jeff.
Good evening, councillors and staff and audience. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak. I'll try to keep it very short. There's just 5 slides plus the cover slides, so we can go to the next one, please. Just broadly speaking, very pleased with the council. I wish our rates were $1,000, but the only thing I'm mainly concerned about there is the consultation. I think that's been a fairly unsatisfactory outcome so far. I'll talk about that in a minute. I think the overheads, I'd like to see a benchmark quoted how Wyndham Council stacks up against other comparable councils. I'd really like to say thank you for the rubbish. That's a very good service, and I think it's probably one of the most visible services the council delivers. So thanks again. Now I'd like to talk about the next slide, which is the main purpose of our group, the Manor Vale, Riverview and Watermiller Avenue Residents Action Committee. We're very concerned about the new framework for planning. It seems like a process which has not got a very clear beginning or end. The new planning scheme, we had a meeting here a few weeks ago now, about 6 weeks ago, with the council staff to go over some submissions we made to that, but there's no clear feedback as to what's happening next, and I'm hoping to hear more about that later on. In the meantime, this is our high-level feedback on that process. We submitted objections, and about 35 people came to the meeting. Along these, I won't go through each individual item on the list there, but they're all fairly significant, and they affect both the natural environment and the social environment of the district, which is a little error on that first version of the slide there. It's a 40-room mansion that the Percy Churnside built on the bank of the river, which was demolished destroyed by fire once that was demolished, destroyed by fire a number of years ago, and but it did give its name to the Manor Vale estate, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's just to the north of the river. So that area is under threat by this proposal, and we're not getting a very encouraging response from the council so far. We have confidence that will be able to be recovered. Next slide, please. So we feel we're on a bit of a joint defence of heritage here. We're trying to defend the millions of years of natural history, Aboriginal history relating back to, I believe it's now 50,000 years of recorded Aboriginal history in this beautiful city and region, and of course for the last 200 years of European history approaching that. So we think that's a fairly precious resource in a city like Wyndham, which is fast growing, has a history going back to when I was a boy, growing up in Bacchus Marsh. There were 2,000 people living in this city or town, and it was a tiny 1% of what it is now. So I'm very excited about the future, but I'm also very alarmed about the lack of attention to heritage. Next slide, please. Now, we understand that all this needs to be paid for. The council has to run to a budget, and that's highly desirable in a rate capping environment. But we all like to think that the council is responsible not just for collecting and spending rates, but also for the economic development of the city. And Councillor Walker and many of the other portfolio holders hold that very dear to your heart. And we think that one of the major growth areas, thank you, is going to be tourism. And also we need to make sure we build a diverse community, not only culturally diverse, but also financially diverse. So we have people of all income strata who can find a place to contribute, grow, educate their children, and live and enjoy this beautiful city. So we think this scheme we're going to come up with, together with, thank you, next, is basically a concerned citizen partnership to help the council to take care of the heritage in our particular area. And we believe this can be financially justified based on the increase in GDP associated with a fairly modest target of increased tourism. Basically, every half a day a person spends in the city probably equal to $50 of contribution to the economy. We'd also like to stay in this garden court environment, which is not an option in the
Thank you, Jeff. Your time is up. Thanks, Jeff. If you could just wrap up straight away, please.
Yeah, sure. So we'd really like to see the change in the style of operation be on the front foot, not be defensive. When the state government changes the rules halfway through the consultation process, it's very difficult for the council to deal with that. We want to take it on the front foot, both at the state and the federal government.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I was wondering whether it was possible to ask the CEO to respond to the first slide that was placed up in this presentation. Not so much now, but in writing, just because this will have been displayed through the online stream. And I think it is important to, as much as we reasonably can, provide every resident that raises these matters with as much evidence base as we can. So it would be good to address that matter. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Councillor Gilligan. It's a very good point, and certainly our process in such matters is to actually correspond with all submitters with detailed responses, obviously following council consideration of matters raised. There are indeed a number of matters pertaining to heritage, history and so on as well. You'll see a theme coming up in our ordinary council meeting in terms of questions as well, so all of these will be responded to in detail. But Mr. Mayor, I think it's important to note that tonight's purpose is really to hear submissions, and following then formal council consideration, as I said to Councillor Gilligan, all respondents will be written to and provided with detailed outcomes.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Look forward to that.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions of Jeff? No? Very well done, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I believe now we have Sant Hill. Sant Hill, you wish to do your presentation now, yes? Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Sant Hill from Point Cook. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to present my idea. So my idea is about having an integrated smart community platform for our Wyndham. So basically this idea sparked actually from one of the Wyndham's own meetings. So I attended this city plan workshop for 4 years that's conducted in Wyndham Vale. I think your team conducted a fabulous job. Like it was like a, a mega corporate meeting, like with all the things taken care in terms of it was done in a very professional way. So what inspired me was that Wyndham is open to new ways of working. It is not the traditional, old age government agency, but it's very open to new ideas. And what inspired me more was some of the smart city workshops and the Windlands initiative from Wyndham, right? That really showed that is what the Wyndham I am looking at for the future, right? So what inspired me to get this one is looking at, using the untapped potential within our council residents, right? And the businesses and the partners, and using them into making a very bright Wyndham future. That is my idea. So, so if we could go to the slide second. So this is my slide. So what I'm envisaging is those 2 hours or 3 hours we had for the Wyndham City Plan workshop, we had hundreds of ideas flowing through from less than 100 people, right? Imagine how many ideas can we tap if we can allow an online platform to get ideas as and when we get it, right? It's also about not only getting the ideas, it's also about building upon each other's ideas. That I observed that in those 2 hours, I was able to see a lot of bright ideas, right, coming from various people. But that is only a section, like we are only speaking about 0.001% of the population, right? We have a lot of untapped potential. See the amount of PhDs and researchers and engineers. Almost entire Melbourne IT runs on Wyndham. Go to any IT company. I am from IT as well. I know every single IT company depends on Wyndham Council. If very busy trains are jammed, most of the meetings get cancelled in IT companies. That is the thing. We are not, there's a lot of potential. So my idea is to build an online idea platform, right? Get the ideas going, right? And, and from those ideas, what you do is, you get hundreds of ideas, each can build upon each other ideas. As simple as you get a security issue, that is a neighborhood security issue, a major thing, right? One simple idea is just build an app which can, get a panic button or SOS button, and it can engage all the residents nearby. You don't even need to implement this one. Just get the media message out, and Wyndham will be a lot more safer, right? Like, I want Wyndham to be the kind of, that any smart idea, any innovation department, any government department, if they want any idea to implement, they want to use Wyndham as a pilot council. That is my wish. And how to do it? Very simple. Build an idea platform. We have all the resources. You have a lot of volunteers. We have a lot of schools, a lot of partners, technology partners ready to invest, a lot of businesses ready to invest, a lot of government agencies ready to invest. We just need to provide an idea platform. Yeah, thank you. So build an idea platform, get the votings going, pick up the top ideas, do a hackathon. Hackathon just free of cost. Again, people are ready to sponsor. Everybody wants to be in the hackathons. They want to get some things done, build those ideas, build some prototypes, and then just engage my other initiative called the Government Bridge Forum, right? Get all the government partners into one meeting, present our top prototypes, saying this is what we come to the table, what are you bringing to a table, right? Ask them, and they have the funding. They'll be really, really eager to fund any of our projects. And that's where, and my other pet idea is about a Wyndham app, where people can actually get all those latest updates, notifications, everything.
Thank you,
ideas.
Sandhill. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you. Councillors, any questions of Sandhill? Councillor Shaw.
Thank you for your presentation. Look, in my experience building, I'm quite supportive of community engagement platforms, but in my experience they can be expensive to build and to run. I noticed in your submission there isn't really what you think a cost to implement this would be. What do you think it actually would cost?
So sorry, just to summarize, should have told that. So what I'm envisaging is we need just a part-time role to begin with, part-time person who can engage with all these agencies and just initiate this in the first year, right? Initiate the idea platform, engage the stakeholders in the first year, right? It's probably a 50K budget for the first year, right? And then just show some ideas working based on, all the partners. They can actually engage, they can provide inputs, they can make it happen. Couple of ideas, if they click, like the wind lens, couple of ideas if they click, then you'll see people pouring into Wyndham to invest and support.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Santil and Sundaram. I think it's a great way of giving an opportunity and showing that this platform can be put forward and where the public can submit through the apps and all this thing now. But you mentioned on your page number 76 of 92, saying my WCL local jobs. Does council already have the link? It's got job links. The council already have, which is the council website. We're already doing some of those ideas you have said here. But with due respect, it's a great presentation. And as my colleague has said that, there's a cost involved. So how would you, justify the cost?
So that's what I'm saying is potential. Like we have just 2 hours of the council meeting. We got hundreds of superb ideas, right? But what we have is untapped potential. A lot of people, 400 people wanted to go into the portfolio committee meetings, get into the portfolio committees. Only 40 people got in. What are those 360 people? What is their potential? What is their interest? What is their, contributions? There is no way for them to contribute. Like there is probably some ways, but we want to engage that platform, give the platform to them so that they can, if you give a hackathon, most of these people will come in and will contribute, right? And once we just need to get the prototypes done. And once prototype is done, there are a lot of technology partners, right? Like Telstra picked up a remote community called Joondalup in Western Australia to implement these things. Why not Wyndham, right? But all they need is everybody wants to showcase their contributions to CSR, or technology, innovation, etc. We just need to showcase that we are ready to accept, right? And if we do hackathons and show some ideas, people are ready to pour in and invest. It is an age of disruption, right? I want to be the sort of the Wyndham to the Uber of councils, right? Without investing 50K, right? And get things going, right? We don't need to be having a lot of staff to do all these things.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Central. Any other questions, councillors?
Thank you.
No, thank you for your time. Councillors, that's the Central was the last speaker for the draft city plan. We'll now move on to and proceed with the public submissions on the draft integrated plan and budget for 2017-18. And the first speaker I'd like to invite up is Aileen Beek of Essence Productions. Thanks, Aileen.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the 5 minutes to speak. Yes, my name's Elaine Beek from Essence Productions, and I run a theatre production company here in Wyndham. I'm essentially based at Werribee Park, where I have a residency there, but I do a lot of other arts projects, and I also run a drama club at Werribee Secondary High School, college. My particular bias is obviously the arts, and that was the thing that I wanted to speak to. I would like to see in the budget, I guess, a higher proportion of funds to go towards the arts. I know it's, I think, 1.45%, and that includes culture, arts, and tourism. So I'm not sure exactly what the three portion up to be, but I think, because I've been involved in and I still am involved in a number of groups. That's great that the council have set up art strategy groups and all sorts of things with really good plans. But I think, and if we were serious about Wyndham being having a healthy arts culture, we just need to invest more, because so many things get so far and they're not either done really well or they're just not funded and then it doesn't happen. I started doing a lot of research about healthy cities and arts cultures, and it was quite overwhelming, the amount. You could talk for hours about quite a lot of worldwide evidence that proves that investing in the arts actually attributes to a really healthy community economically as well. But rather than, I started writing lots of figures and then throw it out, and it's all out there, and I'm sure we all know it's there, but we just have to keep validating it. There is one thing that I read that I connected to, and it says, the arts create a welcoming sense of place and a desirable quality of life. The arts also support a strong democracy, engaging citizens in civic discourse, dramatising important issues and encouraging collective problem solving. For every dollar spent on the arts, the ongoing value and positives for the community has the greatest impact than any other sector. And I can't remember who actually said that, but I really liked it. Now, I've got one of the reasons, a personal reason I think that investing in the arts works is being an artist myself. We're so used to doing things for nothing when we get paid. We kind of do, for every dollar we get paid, for every hour we get paid, we tend to chuck in an extra 10 for free. That's just a pure formula thing. But the other more important thing is it just affects so many people from all ages. And even more, like, I know sport is very important, but even the arts affects literally everybody, from very young disabled to the very elderly, and its potential is just incredible. In fact, it's really not measurable, so I don't know how people do it. So another personal example is the work that I do at Werribee Secondary for the after hours drama clubs. So the school invests, it doesn't come from the education department, but they invest to have me come in after hours, and I get kids from all ages, all level of skill, and many of them are quite disengaged from the normal curriculum. And I've seen, this is my 4th year, and I've seen the incredible difference it can make in their confidence, their skills, how they communicate with their other students. So, I mean, that's what I personally believe in it. So I'd like to see just a higher percentage attributed towards the arts, like close to the sports, I think, which is 5 point something. Right. And the only thing I'll say, yes, so, oh, that threw me. The only other little thing I'll mention is about tourism, and that is we have one of the best tourism attractions in Victoria. Can we find the money, please, to fix the lighting after dark, so when people go there and they drive in, they don't get lost, as it happens all the time? Because that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Aileen. Councillors, any questions? No? You're... just a moment. Councillor Gibbons.
Yes. Yes, no, I get many people that leave. I even had somebody that didn't go to a show because they got so cross, they got lost, they drove home again. But it's a constant problem, we're all aware of it. But I think we're big enough, we should just fix it and match the standard of the attraction.
Great. Any other questions, councillors? If not that, thank you, Aileen. Very good. Our next speaker is Belinda Donovan. No, not here. Oh, well, that'll move the night on, won't it? The next speaker is Chris Burton of the Werribee Cricket Club.
Good evening, and thanks very much for your time. I'll see if I can use this device to aid my presentation. Yeah, my name is Chris Burton. I am currently on the committee of the Werribee Cricket Club, but I have played a number of roles across the city of Wyndham in sport. It's my passion to see young people of our area participate and get the opportunity to play in sport. It's something I really strive to keep working hard to provide. This particular project was born out of a brainstorming session between the Werribee Cricket Club and the Werribee Football Club on the back of the new facility that's been built at Chirnside Park. We recognised that the facility that we use to train for cricket is going to be looking outdated very, very quickly as the new social rooms and change rooms get built. We're just hoping to demonstrate some value that a rethink on this particular area can bring to this to our community by having some lateral thinking and maybe coming up with an opportunity to move this space into a more open space, cross-functional and multi-purpose that will allow a range of people within our community and a range of sports to be able to participate across a wider time frame. Currently, these nets are predominantly used for cricket. They're closed nets, predominantly used for cricket. They get used between October and March on a Tuesday and Thursday for about 2 hours each night. We're wanting to open that up to a much broader time frame and give people much more access to be able to utilise this particular facility. And my little clicker work, which is good. Some of the sports we think can be given an opportunity to participate in this area, if we could get some funding to reshape it, would be netball, to say the least. Easily adapt netball into this facility, hockey, football, cricket, baseball, softball, tennis, athletics. The range is unlimited. But the beauty of it is that it will allow for both able and disabled sport to be played in this area. The way that we envisage this being set up, with some soft netting internally, hard netting out on the outskirts, being able to pull the curtains back and having a total open space that allow a lot of people to be able to utilise this facility. It complements also the Werribee Huddle that's going to be residing at Chirnside Park once the new facility is built. They'll be able to utilise this all day and in most conditions. So we think it's got a really practical use. It also could be used as an activation centre on match days and major events. So it gives the community a chance and the City of Wyndham a chance to put on other things other than a game of footy or a game of cricket on the oval. Be able to activate this space to be able to let people engage and use the area to you know, enhance our community and get them to interact on a higher scale. A couple of other really key points to what we're trying to do here is I think Chirnside Park's the only ground at the moment that's got run-ups, which we call run-ups in a game of cricket when you train, on the oval itself. There's a high cost to repair that each and every year to make the oval safe. We'd like to try and remove that, take the whole facility off the ground. It allows football and cricket to interact, or football and other sports to interact all year round. So that would remove that cost. Currently, the Werribee Cricket Club's in charge of looking after the turf practice wickets that exist down at the oval as well. That's a community cost. It's a cost that we have to spend a lot of time raising money to fund. We think that if we can go down this path, our money will be better spent. And we're prepared to move away from turf training facilities and utilise something that's a lot more practical, a lot more functional.
60 seconds.
Sure. The photos I've got up on the wall at the moment, on the slide at the moment, just show how dated the venue is. It was built in 1990. There's been no structural work done to it for 25 years. It's currently going to be, a part of its section is going to be removed to help with the construction. Now, we don't know what that's going to look like when it's got to go back. So there is a risk in terms of the facility obviously becoming run down. One of the keys we think, and again, just looking at the area on the right-hand side of the slide as I look at it, that walkway there presents a high risk for people in wheelchairs to try and access the goals down the western end of the facility all the way through the new change rooms that are being built at the moment. It's all grassed. It's very, very difficult for anyone to get across that area. By building something that's very, very modelled on the Soldiers Reserves training facility, we think that that's going to promote and better utilise this particular area.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll I'll see if we've got any questions for you. Councillors, any questions on the proposal down there at, well, I call it Chirnside Park, but it's Avalon Airfield, isn't it? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So asking questions regarding, do that club, or how many members we have in a club, do the club also offer format of 2020 or is that
Sure.
maybe one day like 50 minutes?
Yeah, well, the Werribee Cricket Club are affiliated with the Victorian Sub-District Cricket Association. We've got a really, really strong alignment with the Werribee Junior Cricket Club. The Werribee Junior Cricket Club's got over 120 children playing cricket. That's our lifeline. Our teams are largely made up of the juniors from our area that go through the Werribee Junior Cricket Club. We play T20 cricket. We have a Milo program that's run, and we've got 5 senior sides that operate in the Victorian Sub-District Cricket Association and the VTCA. So probably close to 250, 300 members in terms of participation alone form part of our club.
And Councillor McAlane.
Thank you. Chris, I'm just inquiring with redevelopment, because I'm a new councillor since November. Did you have any consultation with the Chirnside development?
I'm actually on most of the steering committees, and unfortunately our focus was on the new rooms as opposed to this part of the facility. So I do sit on those steering committees.
And did you raise this with the officers at the time when all the funding came in from the various organisations?
No, we didn't. It was an afterthought. We actually sat down during one of our site tours and recognised that this facility, this area had been left. It was a fairly tight budget for the redevelopment as it was. There was a lot of people, putting money in, a lot of financial partners in the project, and it was probably a really difficult program to try and even think about at that time, because our focus was just trying to get a budget alignment to get the new facility built. And this certainly was a second thought, unfortunately not roped into the whole scope of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Yep, Councillor Shaw.
Thanks, Chris. Just in relation to your idea, have you spoken to other clubs, basketball, netball, in terms of getting their input or getting their feel for whether they would use a facility like this?
Yeah, thanks. Look, certainly netball is a focus. There's a strong alignment at the moment between football and netball. You can see it through the AFL, the VFL. They're all sort of trying to partner up with other sports. So there's definitely interest in that realm. But we see the huddle being a key component here, the Werribee huddle, giving people that are in that program an outdoor facility to be able to use and not interfere with any other sport. So it's sort of broad scope and a lot of opportunity to actually engage other sports in this area.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you, Chris.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mark Penaluna from the Werribee Football Club. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everyone for the opportunity to come along tonight, and I'll try and keep this as close to 5 minutes as possible. I'll touch on 4 points as part of our submission today in relation to the removal of replacement existing surface at Chirnside Park Oval and installation of new irrigation system at the Oval. Basically, the 4 points will be why undertake this work, why do it now, the independent advice we received from City West Water, as well as the benefits associated with this. Basically, the current standards dictate that the turf oval surface should be upgraded every 20 to 25 years. Chirnside Park Oval was last resurfaced 21 years ago, which is showing serious signs of age and deterioration. The condition of the oval surface currently has problems with POA, which is basically a weed. Those who do follow football would know that, well, wouldn't necessarily know, but understand that causes serious stability issues. One of the grounds that has that is Port Melbourne Footy Ground. Last year they were unable to play 4 games on their oval because of that situation. I know that City of Port Phillip are looking at a lot of money to go into that facility to address the issues that are going on that oval. The irrigation on the oval is quite poor, particularly between Sprinkler Head to Sprinkler Head. And if you do go along there in the middle of summer, you'll be able to see that for yourself. And the current cost associated to maintain it is increasing every year because of the poor surface, the aeration that's required and things like that. Why do it now? Currently, as Werribee Footy Club, we're not playing any home games because of the redevelopment at the facility. We're prepared to move our training facility, which is currently at the Oval, to another venue such as Glen Ordon Oval. The Werribee Cricket Club are already being disrupted 3 months because of the redevelopment themselves, hence missing half a season training, playing on the Oval last year. Next season, North Melbourne Football Club have decided to have their own team in the VFL. They've already made overtures, at least to us, I'm not sure council, about potentially playing games at Chirnside Park Oval. They've been informed from the VFL that they won't be able to play too many games at Arden Street, so they're looking for venues. And with considerable investment in the new redevelopment that's occurred, the service needs to be at the best standard to showcase the whole precinct. We've been told by the AFL that basically this facility will now have the best change rooms, unisex, etc., of any club outside the AFL in Victoria. We see the opportunities from women's games and other opportunities for us could be tremendous for the club and particularly for the city. As far as the disruption point of view, as I touched on before, both the Werribee Football Club and Cricket Club and Hoppers Crossing are the only regional clubs in the area, and to have a disruption again into this season, we think extremely disadvantageous to both the Werribee Footy and Cricket Club. I'd like to also touch on that. I believe that council have spoken about potential of these works occurring in the next 2 to 3 years. I just think if that was the case, and for us to have another disruption in another 2 or 3 years, as I said, would be quite extremely disadvantageous to us. The City West Water advice is there. They basically suggest that every 15 to 20 years is a good lifespan for an irrigation system for venues such as ours. Playing this level of football, the upgrading of the irrigation system needs to occur. It's perfect timing that the footy club can be off the Oval for the next 3 months to allow these sort of works to occur, improving the service quality, enable more user hours further on, and minimising the impact of one-off events should the council wish to utilise it. The cost is $400,000. It is not for the major works that would normally occur to rip it up. I believe the council have done a lot of work in the Parks and Recs department to suggest that that's the sort of work level that's required.
60 seconds, thanks.
Thank you. Some of the longer term strategy, Wyndham Council has designated Chirnside Park as a major events centre for the City of Wyndham, which is terrific, and hence the investment made into the redevelopment, of which obviously the Werribee Footy Club has invested $1 million, and in fact Australian Rules Football has invested close to $3 million over the last 15 years. That allows the sort of things that have been mooted regarding pre-season practice games, Big Bash, A-League soccer, concerts, etc. The savings that I've specified previously. And the community opportunities as well as currently what we're currently delivering regarding multicultural clinics, Auskicks. We're looking to extend those to allow greater usage of the Oval for the Werribee Huddle, citizenship ceremonies and these sorts of things. And obviously the reputation of our city and with our facility there would be enormous. I also like to touch on, I think this also fits nicely in relation to Wyndham Council's 2040 vision as well. Thank you.
Time's up. Oh, well done. Thank you, Mark. It's almost to the second. You must have a stopwatch there as well, do you? That's very good. Questions, councillors? No? Straightforward. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Khan.
Look, it's a great presentation. Thank you, Mark. You always come with a passion and you know how you've been working for long, so you know the back and forth about the project. I like to give you the compliment. How can you attract the Big Bash games, which is is a great way, and that $400,000 can improve and can track the long-term strategy. That will be really great. So it's a good way of incorporating things like Big Bash and cycle leagues, and if that can possibly really make the city do
well, we have spoken to council, and I know there's been some overtures, not so much of a Big Bash game, but potentially a pre-season AFL match to be played at Chirnside Park Oval in March. So we've had consultation with through Jenny, David Simmons, and others. So, and I know that the AFL is seriously considering our venue as one of the opportunities.
Great. Councillor McAlane.
Mark, I just want to know, you said it's approximately 400,000. How many games a year for the next, if it's potentially going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, so how many games will you miss in that period where obviously maintenance will be incurred in that period?
Sorry, you're suggesting the maintenance?
Yeah, the maintenance.
Over the next 3 years?
If it wasn't done. So how many games would you miss?
Well, it depends on the weather.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of water or rain, then, as I said, Port Melbourne missed 4 games last year. So it would just be, well, obviously I'm coming from a biased position, but to have that sort of facility and not have the oval surface upgraded, and I probably wouldn't want the press to print this, but Williamstown Footy Club invested close to $11 million in their facility, and if you walked in and had a look at this surface, I'm sure they would like to do that again.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions, councillors? If not, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
The next presentation is Gavin Young of the Sanctuary Lakes Football Club. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to present. I'm the president of the Sanctuary Lakes Football Club, Gavin Young, and I'm here to talk to you today about our current facilities and what we've got planned as a football club going forward, and hoping that we can partner. So we're a club that's reasonably young. We're 5 years old. In saying that, though, we have over 500 players, volunteers and supporters that frequent our rooms on a regular basis, 7 days a week, as a matter of fact. We also have a partner in the summer months with the cricket club, who have given me permission to talk about their plight tonight, who have similar numbers. So over all the 12 months, we've got 1,000 people using Featherbrook. We appreciate the facility for what it was. It was a great start-up facility for both clubs. However, we both believe that we've outgrown that quite substantially. And in particular this year, both clubs have girls teams, and I'll give you an example of the problems that we've got. The last time the girls played at home following a boys game, they had to sit on the oval to wait for the boys to get changed so they can go in. So these are the sorts of limitations that Featherbrook give us at the moment. We appreciate that there are plans in place to redevelop Featherbrook, which is fantastic news for us. But in the short term, we really need some assistance now, and that's why we've put forward for a portable to be put in place while the redevelopment takes place of Featherbrook. We need social space. Financially, we're being disadvantaged. All of our functions have to be held off-site. Therefore, a lot of revenue goes off-site. Our local establishments rub their hands together when it's time for our presentation nights. So in continuing, we believe that it aligns beautifully with the council's strategies, and in particular the 2040 strategy. We believe that we provide opportunities for people to come together. It's a community-based club. It also is an opportunity for youngsters to stay fit and healthy, and we're also, as I said before, diversifying and opening our doors up to as many girls and women as possible, and hopefully our girls teams will go from the 1 to 4 or 5 next year. We've had a lot of interest, but in saying that, we can't grow with our current facilities. That's pretty much it, really. We've got some indicative pricing for a portable. We think that there's possibly between $100 to $600 a month for leasing, and then $10,000 to $50,000 for a purchase that can be repurposed later on for other clubs. In finalising what I wanted to say tonight as well, we're very keen on a redevelopment of Featherbrook, but we also want to put our hat in the ring for the Upper Point Cook development that's due in the next couple of years.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gavin. Councillors, any questions of Gavin? Mayor?
Thanks, Gavin. So I've been down to your ground. My nephew plays at District, so I've been down there a couple of times. I'm just trying to work out, just trying to get, I suppose, a picture in my head how this portable would work. It's like you would put it next to your club rooms, or you would use it while they're being redeveloped. I'm just trying to get a bit of a feel for how you think this portable would actually function.
Yeah, sure. So it's twofold, really. We're looking for a space that we don't have to leave Featherbrook initially, so that's the number one priority, but also a space that we can hold functions. So on the 24th of June, I'm going to give it a plug, we've got a trivia night. It should be something that is quite financial for the club, brings in funds that we can then put back into our junior teams, but we have to hold that at a hotel. So what could be a $5,000–6,000 night for the club ends up being $1 or $2. So we really need, and I again appreciate the plans in place for Featherbrook, but that's the idea of the portable. It's really so we can start making some funding to finance ourselves and really push forward and grow as a club.
Thank you.
Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Gavin. Could you go into a bit more details on the challenges with the female teams?
Yes, absolutely. So we have our very first girls football team, but the cricket club's been going for a couple of years now with girls. We have had games this year, as I said earlier, that our girls have had to wait for access to rooms. The change rooms are great if it's an all-boys club, because you can come and go as you please, but it's very limited for our girls, which means that they end up having to go to our Alamander ground, particularly for game day, and that really detaches people from the club, detaches the girls from the club. We're trying to grow that side of our football club and the cricket club, but unfortunately we're going to lose people other than growing if we have to continue to do that.
Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Gavin. Look, you said that your club's been running for 5 years and it's got about 500 members, and you're sort of looking about to 10 to 15k is the portable facility. Now, have you thought about, or have you got a club have a strategy to reach private businesses and within the Wyndham City and sort of look at alternative funding and long-term sustainability of the club? Because, as you said, that you definitely need some of the sponsors behind. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, the club's very good with sponsorship. We have up to $50,000 a year in sponsorship at the football club alone, but that money goes back into putting people on the ground to play football. We're not a profit-making organisation. We're financially stable, a lot better than what we were 2 or 3 years ago. It was perilous at one stage, I've got to say. So it's taken a lot of work to get us back to where we need to be. But we use the sponsorship money that we get in from the club to put our players on the ground.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. The next presenter is Thomas Zing. Thomas?
No.
Nope, no Thomas. Following Thomas is Wendy Knight of the Lions Club of Little River. Wendy, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I drew the short straw, so I'm here to talk to you tonight. I had all sorts of people nominated and they all left town. It does. I want to talk to you about the Three Bridges project. It's a project that's been mooted in Little River for a long time. A brief overview of this project begins with discussions dating back to 1984, with plans first being drawn up in year 2000. The entire project aimed to improve the environs of Little River between Old Melbourne Road and Yu Yangs Road. However, between these two bridges, the railway bridge over the river created safety issues, and the whole project was set aside as too hard. If we fast forward to 2017, Little River Lions Club is keen to get working on one section of the walking track beside the river, beginning at the park beside Rothwell Road and following the river down around to the end of McLean's Road. This section has some lovely views of the historic Rothwell Bridge and picturesque panoramas across the river to the Yuyangs, especially at sundown when the mountains are silhouetted against the glowing sky. This section of path would pass by a couple of sites of historical interest in the town. There's a community swimming pool dating from about 1950s or 60s, I think, that was kept full by river flow but no longer holds water. There's also a weir built across the river in the days of the local market gardens, with water still flowing over the spillway except in extreme drought conditions. We believe this walking track would be a good community building project in the working bee phase with input from local primary school students and environmental groups. It might even help to create a suggested Little River Land Care group. It will also be of great benefit to community near and far once completed. Locals always enjoy walking by the river with children and with dogs, and many people come into our area to visit the Yuyangs or go bird watching at Serendip and the Western Treatment Plant. We believe this pathway could become an added attraction. And that's all I've got to say, thank you.
Well, thank you, Wendy. We'll see if there's any questions for you. Councillors? No questions. Very clear.
I'll
Thank
scurry
you.
out of here, thank you.
There we go. That wasn't so bad, was it? We now have Susan McIntyre.
Oh, no, Sentil.
Sentil's already spoken.
He's got two.
Oh, Sentil, I'm sorry. You're going to speak on the budget plan as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for the opportunity again. So the last thing we discussed about is about the four-year plan, like overall idea platform and a hackathon and having various initiatives across everything. But my focused thing for year one is basically getting this idea platform up and running, and then getting at least a couple of hackathons going on this year, right? And then, of course, we can also build a high-level plan for the next 3 years about what are the other support platforms we require. For example, we can have a volunteer support platform which connects the interested volunteers with the people who have ideas about various volunteering projects. They can connect basically these people. There can be also projects about my partners. Basically, it's about a connecting platform between various partners who are interested in doing some projects for Wyndham, and so these are about partners who are interested to contribute to Wyndham in terms of a partner. So for the first year, so what I think we covered this point in the first as well, is to get at least a part-time role who the person can actually coordinate with all the partners, all the things, and get this going. So I think there is always a skepticism about IT. I am from IT as well, but there's always skepticism about IT, that IT is costly, it's going to be overrunning everything extra. But you can just get an idea about how things can be efficient as well. The Australian Bureau of Statistics, the project government built it for $9 million. And can anybody guess the same platform was built in a hackathon? For how much dollars, do you know? Anybody remember that? It was for $500. And it was better than that. It actually took all the load and all the security, hacking, all the things, it was able to handle that. So what I'm looking for is an opportunity for, building this, giving the opportunity for all those people who are passionate about Wyndham to present themselves and contribute to Wyndham's growth. So, yeah, that's it from my end.
Thank you, Sentil.
Thank you.
Very precise. Just reading through it all on the screen here. Councillors, any questions of Sentil on this issue? Councillor Villagonzalo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sentil, would you be available if there was interest in council in implementing your idea, your proposal, in what capacity and what is your availability to be able to work with, I don't know, a community group or council to implement this?
I can work every weekend, every night. I'm a full-time employee, but really I can contribute as a, high-level thought leadership and kind of a guiding partner for the whole initiative. Yeah.
Council is hosting the Go Back this year, and it will be held here in Council. Is that something that you think would be part of the whole scheme of your proposal here?
Yeah, I think GoHack, I think we are conducting, but I think we are also focusing on a particular area. I think public transport, if I'm right. But I think the kind of opportunities and the kind of issues we have is enormous, and the kind of skills we have, the skills, and the thought leadership, the potential is enormous. It's mind-boggling, right? All my request is to give an opportunity to become the Uber of councils.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? If not, Santil, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thanks for it.
Our next presenter is Susan McIntyre.
Hi, make sure it's not too loud. Okay, well, thank you very much for everybody for giving this opportunity for me to present my budget submission. I would like the council to consider putting aside around $50,000 for a temporary pop-up park in Point Cook Town Centre. I believe it would support local businesses. I believe it would improve community engagement and improve the ambience of the area. Pop-up parks are not new across the world and are a way of energising spaces and bringing more green areas into our towns. I believe it would bring into our town centre a place to connect better as a community. My inspiration was the pop-up park in Yarraville. I've put a couple of pictures up there. They are quite little, so hopefully you can see them. I'm sure many of you will know already about this park, but for maybe those of you who don't. Maribyrnong in early 2012, I believe, transformed the area in front of the Sun Theatre using tables, chairs, plants and synthetic turf at a cost of about $50,000. This was used twice a year as a temporary facility in Yarraville, but when the council voted to relocate it elsewhere for the third year, the traders and community put together a protest to stop this from happening. I'll save you from the YouTube clip of them singing a song and sitting in the area. Now the place and space is a permanent pedestrian area to be enjoyed with seating, art sculptures, and one which myself and many others I know have enjoyed. Many other Melbourne councils have also used this concept, but it was my inspiration, so I thought it was a wonderful illustration of what could be achieved. Why not replicate its success here in Point Cook? The concept could be a temporary one, and one whose success could be evaluated, with the flexibility of it being used for other areas too. I think I'll probably go the wrong way in the slides myself. Why is it needed here in Point Cook? So we're the actual largest suburb in Wyndham, and I believe we need more local jobs and our businesses to thrive. This will help congestion on our roads and put more money in our local economy. Some businesses in our local shopping centres, such as Point Cook Town Centre, are struggling, which is exacerbated by the centralisation of places like Pacific Werribee. Town centres often have high rates, and you need large volumes of business to succeed. Many of our local businesses in retail and hospitality are sometimes struggling. One of the main themes of the budget is places and spaces. The focus of the current budget appears to be heavily weighted towards Werribee Town Centre, and I would like Point Cook to be considered too. Point Cook is actually, you can probably see it just about at the bottom right there, Point Cook is actually the online shopping capital of Australia, and I would like more of this money to be spent locally. We have a perfect area that would not affect car parking access, and the area of Manong Street and the main street, as you can see to the left there, is already regularly closed off for community events and festivals successfully. A suggested 3-month trial period would coincide with Christmas and summer, and I think it would be an excellent timescale in which to try such a concept. I can see young people listening to book readings, Santa spreading Christmas cheer, young people demonstrating their amazing musical abilities, community groups showcasing their talents, and different cultural groups showing their culture. The list is potentially endless. So to summarise, I believe a temporary pop-up park for Point Cook Town Centre could support local businesses, improve community engagement and inject more energy and people into an area of our town centre to make it more of an enjoyable place to visit and be part of. Point Cook is a vibrant community and I believe this park could be a demonstration of this vibrancy, energy and community pride. We love where we live and want it to be the best it can be. To close, I believe it was said that the original decision of Maribyrnong Council to fund the original park in Yarraville was one of their most popular decisions. If you vote to include it in your budget, it could be one of Wyndham's too. Thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Susan. Councillors, any questions of Susan? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Susan.
Hi.
My voice is not too good. Have you spoken to Heidi at Point Cook Town Centre about this idea?
So who I've spoken to at the moment, I've spoken to the traders, I've spoken to different members in the community, and I've spoken to the town centre in relation to utilising different events within the community, but not specifically about the pop-up parks. So I do some pages, community pages such as Point Cook Dining, and they've asked me to be involved in some of their re-energising in relation to their dining areas, and they do message me in relation to Welcome to Point Cook that I do as well in relation to exploring some of the events and Westweg, and so they have said that they want to be more involved with the community and connecting with the community. And so to be honest on this one, I really wanted to gauge the opinion whether it was something that was a possibility to put forward, but I know from their other comments and the engagement with me that they do want to get more involved and get that integration going.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Khan?
Thank you, sir. If the pop-up park will start, what are the occupational health and safety is more responsible if there is any event of accident?
So I would expect just as in Maribyrnong and in Yarraville, I would expect sort of safe work method statement, a creation set up and what the creation that would be. I think the learnings of this is in like Darebin and a lot of the other councils, they have a very similar thing. So I would envisage the cost, and the cost that they actually gave is that 50k to include the insurance element, whether that was in relation to accidents or, you know, a health and safety issue. I think what's really good about this is that it isn't new. It's been used in so many other areas, and I think it's one of those things where you don't have to start again. You can actually use the learnings of other councils, other events, to actually say what could happen and how could we prevent that happening and make it as successful as possible.
Right. Councillors, any other questions? If not, Susan, thank you.
Thank you much for your time.
Our next presenter is Derek Zhang. Derek?
No, he's not here.
Not here? Okay. Our next presenter, I believe, isn't here, but Miriam Spees, I think. Have I got your surname right? Close enough.
Didn't allow a box for me in your budget, did you? You see?
Thanks, Miriam. And you're from Neighbourhood Watch, Point Cook Central.
I sure am.
Good on you.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, guests and hecklers from the Peanut Gallery. My name is Miriam Spees. I represent Neighbourhood Watch, Point Cook Central. I have the dubious honour of being a last-minute shoe-in since Nat King's unavailable and sends her apologies. People and community is one of the key themes of this budget. We want to ensure Wyndham is inclusive, safe and welcoming. Sadly, through our experiences as members of Neighbourhood Watch Point Cook Central, we find many in our community do not feel safe. They do not feel safe in their home during the day or night, in public spaces and our local shopping centres. Although we represent Point Cook community, it is a sentiment that's repeated to a lot of the Neighbourhood Watch groups across Wyndham. Many in our community do not feel safe in their homes due to large groups of youth congregating in parks who are involved in both illegal and antisocial behaviour. The main reason or issues being that antisocial behaviour will continue throughout the night into the early hours of the morning. Loud, disruptive and at times aggressive behaviour, drug distribution from cars, drug and alcohol consumption resulting in drug alcohol affected driving, drug paraphernalia, smashed alcohol bottles being left in parks, recently even vomit, hence my not providing a slideshow. You're welcome. These parks usually border a large number of homes, resulting in residents being afraid to leave their homes, barricading themselves and small children in bedrooms, arming themselves for protection, and also being in the process of just moving out of the area. Neighbourhood Watch volunteers constantly check and clean the parks for the safety of children using these parks and the safety of our community. What we propose and ask for consideration is to address this issue is to have better lighting at these parks, solar powered, to try and minimise the cost. It would help deter this behaviour and provide better lighting in the early autumn and winter as well. We also would like to suggest sprinklers to be activated at night in areas that are hot spots to try and deter some of this troublesome behaviour. Most of the parks have water already piped to them, and in certain areas sprinkler systems could be used in conjunction with lighting to deter these late night gatherings. The parks in particular we would like to trial would be the Flory Park in Innisfail, Hargrave Park in Kingsford Estate and Featherbrook Drive in Saratoga. We would like to propose to the Council to install CCTV around the Point Cook Town Centre and other hotspot trouble areas. Not only has the fear of crime impacted on residents' lives, it has impacted on businesses that operate in the town centre. Families are staying away, and even more so at night. Those who work at the centre are asking to be escorted to their cars because of fear. Even our young people are afraid in the town centres after school, asking youth services to accompany them to public transport. Currently, we know many crimes are not reported to the police due to the level of under-resourcing of police force and the lack of confidence many have in our community that they feel towards them. There is a growing mistrust of police, particularly in reporting of crime and crime statistics. We need more proactive policing and visible policing in our town centres, patrols with Maori wardens and South Sudanese community groups for people to feel safer. We appreciate this is outside the Council's control, but would hope that councillors would continue to advocate for more police in our area for different community groups to work together to make our community feel safer and a happier place to live.
60 seconds, thank you.
We believe CCTV will assist in reporting crime and more accurately better reflect the current situation on the ground and will lead to more resourcing being allocated. Finally, we'd like to express the urgency of addressing the intersection of Point Cook Road and Snides Road. It has been the location of many accidents. When you take the high volume of traffic and lack of traffic lights into account, it's only a matter of time there'll be a fatality. We want people in our community to feel safe, and the Council acting on lighting, CCTV and addressing the Snides Road intersection would greatly help achieve that. Thank you for allowing me to present.
Thank you, Miriam. Councillors, any questions on Miriam's presentation? No, straightforward. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mary. It was a great presentation. You mentioned that now CCTV will assist. How did you make the conclusion CCTV will assist? Even
there's a lot of
thought about how we can implement in the area and how they can be benefited and what lots of support is looking for council?
Sure. A lot of the CCTV sort of is in the shopping areas, but where the crime seems to be happening is at the bus stops. There's a lot of vandalism, there's a lot of attacks on our youth, and often that's going unreported. They feel they're not believed, they're not, a lot of these youth are not going forward with assaults. They come to us, but they don't go to police. And it's very hard for us to back them up and to get any form of action and have these, crimes reported and have action on that will result in, obviously this is happening on a regular basis. Those statistics are disappearing into the ether, and that's why we're not getting the police that we need for the area. If we don't have the stats, we won't get the numbers.
Councillors, any other questions? Miriam, I've got a question, which I'm allowed to ask actually. I usually can't speak from the chair, but seeing where standing orders have been suspended, I'm I'm allowed to ask a question, okay? Yeah, read up the rules, I'm sure I'm right. You made a comment that people are so afraid that they're selling up and moving elsewhere.
Yeah.
I've heard this before from people who tell me that they know people who are leaving the city of Wyndham because they're afraid. Have you got any actual proof, or can you tell me where, if somebody has left, where they've moved to? You know, where are people moving to feel safe?
Some people have actually left the state, which unfortunately that's a reflection of the crime across Victoria. I don't think any of us live under a rock. But there are people who have left Wyndham and gone back to the east and back to areas where I guess they felt there was a bigger police presence. I myself know that, you know, the interactions that I've had, particularly around the Innisfail Park, there's a couple that have come down from Queensland. They've been here a year, and as soon as their lease is up, they're out. They're already packing up and leaving because they're right underneath the park where these youths are congregating, and the husband's shift worker leaves at, you know, ungodly hours of the morning, and they're watching him leave, and she's home alone with toddlers, barricaded in her home to feel safe. And people shouldn't live like that.
No. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? No. Miriam, thank you very much for your presentation. Very good.
Thank you.
Next is Bob Fairclough of the Point Cook Action Group.
There's a cricket team coming.
No. Can I just clarify, Bob? You've got 5 minutes. Do you want me to give you a warning signal? Like, I think you said that you want more than one person wants to speak. But you've got
there's 3 of us speaking, and we're trying to do it within the 5 minutes.
Okay. So do you want me to let you know when you've been talking for 2 minutes?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Well, 1 minute to go, yeah.
Yeah. 1 minute? Okay. All right.
Okay. My name's Bob Fairclough. I'm the current president of the Point Cook Action Group. I'm really pleased to have got 2 members of the team with us today, Roma Pedersen and Karthink Thangamani, and they're going to be speaking a bit later. Just like to thank the council for giving me the opportunity to say a few words on the draft council plan. We're very pleased to see in the planned budget some items that will be benefiting Point Cook. That's the skate park upgrade, the renovations to the Point Cook Community Centre, and a number of other initiatives. So really pleased about that, particularly the bike plan to connect Hoppers with Point Cook. 2 months ago, the Point Cook Action Group had a strategic planning day in which we identified 4 key areas
60 seconds
for concern.
4 minutes. 4 minutes left.
Okay. They were transportation and public transport, facilities for young people, public safety and criminal activity, and better communication. Now, if I could have the first slide, if you can. Sorry, there is a presentation there if you can see it looking sideways. What that is going to demonstrate is there's 3 entrances, satellite roads into Point Cook Road. The current levels of activity there is 26,000 vehicles a day. That is so high that it's registering number 7 on the red spot program for the RACV. It's the 7th most congested road in Victoria. We've got Palmer's Road in the middle, and as you know, that's 24,000 vehicles a day, and the Palmer's Road transit lane will obviously help to reduce that level.
3 minutes.
But if you look down a little bit earlier, down a little bit, the Sneeds Road, that offers the people the option of getting onto the highway through the western approach. Now, there's a couple of major problems with that. Next slide, please. You can see here that Sneeds Road right along it, it's got a 4-lane highway, 2 lanes each way. At that intersection with Point Cook Road, it narrows to 2 lanes, 1 lane each way. It is a horrific intersection because cars are piled up there because we're getting 4 lanes going into 2. The reason for that is further down the slide, the Telstra has got what's called an optical line terminal, and they won't shift that until they get compensation for it.
2 minutes left, Bob.
Thank you. So my brief to finish off, we'd like Sneeds Road to be repaired. There is a major traffic, a major problem with the road wear in that one. We'd like the council to participate in discussions with Telstra and to the state government to see if we can get funding to correct this intersection. We'd like red lights installed at this intersection and traffic lights. We'd like the Public Transport Victoria to consider reviews of the bus routes there so that they can go to new developments. And we also would like some signage areas to be corrected. So the next speaker is Roma. Thank you, Roma.
You have
Thank you very
65
much.
seconds, right?
Thank you. I'd just like to say that the youth of Point Cook also see safety and crime as a major issue, lack of transport also to get to major facilities, and they would like to see some alternative sporting facilities and music festivals. So we'd like council to consider a private or a public swimming pool, similar to the one that is currently located in Brimbank. So that we could also have a learn to swim program in our local area. And we would like to also ask that council consider allocating some funds of around $30,000 to investigate some alternate sporting venues in our area, possibly something like a velodrome that the youth could use in that local Point Cook area. Thank you.
You've got 10 seconds, Carthy.
Yep, thanks, Roma. So I'll just cut it short, like pretty much most of the things are covered by the Neighbourhood Watch Central. I'm here to talk about community safety, and I would directly go with the summary of the submission on community safety and our recommendations. So we would suggest to the council to increase the advocacy to ensure that residents feel safer through a better local engagement with police. So probably like putting something in our Windham News newsletter or something like that, like call Crime Stoppers in case of any issues. And increase in the police presence, which is very much required for the Windham Council as such and Point Cook. And probably better lighting in the parks and reserve areas, and also installation of CCTV cameras in shopping centres.
I'm going to have to stop you. However, I will say that the issues that you're discussing that I've read on here are basically almost word for word the same as what Miriam was talking. So
that's right. Yes.
I hope your two groups are talking to each other because
no,
you're all on the same. You're all on the same road together. So
yeah, I'm a part of Neighbourhood Watch as well. So
imagine if your two groups got together, you'd be a very massive group in Point Cook, I'm sure. But they are together.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
anyway,
good.
Thanks for the
Well,
opportunity.
thank you for that. And,
Any questions?
yeah, we'll take on board the request for the safety issues as well. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Our last presenter. Oh yeah, questions. Sorry. Geez, I'm racing ahead here. Questions, councillors. Councillor Khan. There we go.
Question is, you have mentioned that there will be a public swimming. If there were public swimming, to what area you'll be looking, and you're requesting public swimming? What cost will be public swimming?
Okay. Well, perhaps Roma. Here we are.
Roma.
I'm not sure if we have the information for where the pool will go, though. Sorry.
Probably we're well aware, of course, about the aquatic centre. It's got 3,700 current enrolments. But the important thing is there is a waiting list of up to 800, so there's an urgent need, I think, for more learn to swim facilities. In response to your question, we'd like to see some small facilities catering particularly to learn to swim in the growth areas of Wyndham, and that's Point Cook, Truganina and Manor Lakes, Tarneet area. The idea that this would be either a private or a public-private arrangement, where the developer would build a building and lease it out to a sports operator, say like YMCA, activity like that. So there would be minimum cost to council, but it would enable those facilities to be put in place. And it's in line with the state government proposal to try and get learn to swim facilities so that all children in our community can have the opportunity to learn to swim. And I think currently there's about 18 deaths each year by drowning, and we really have to try and reduce that figure. And putting smaller privately owned or public-private facilities in place would certainly address, go a long way to rectifying that problem.
Very good. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, might want to turn back around, mate. There's a question for you. It's about Sneeds Road and Point Cook Road interchange. From a resident's point of view, what sort of impact is it having on the area, that road?
The intersection?
Yeah.
I think it's meaning people are actually avoiding going down Sneeds Road. And I think that's contributing to the congestion at the three approaches, the existing approaches. It's exacerbating a problem that we really shouldn't have.
Very good. Other questions, councillors?
Sorry, one more. Yep.
Councillor Shaw.
Thanks, Bob. A velodrome. I'm just interested to know why a velodrome in Point Cook.
At the strategic planning day, we really were starting to toss ideas around about how we can help the young people that's been talked about previously. To do that, we really need perhaps a bigger range of alternative sporting facilities. And one of the members of our group mentioned a close friend of hers who was that used a Vodafone on the other side of the city. And we felt that that facility perhaps could be considered for Wyndham. And that's the only one. What we're proposing in that request is that we employ a consultant to evaluate other alternative ones. And velodrome could be one, but there may be others that would really benefit this community. We provide an alternative sport, and cycling is obviously a popular one, so we can increase the tourism potential, but also provide another facility for young people that currently aren't fitting into either sport or music or the arts. Yeah.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you, Bob, Roma and Carter. Very well done. You've done well. Our last presenter for the night is Marissa Burton. Marissa. Werribee South Ratepayers Association. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm representing the ratepayers of Werribee South as Vice President, and apologies for Dr Joe Gara, who couldn't be with us here tonight. We're a local community group advocating to council and all levels of government, with a local seniors friendship group for over 55s. We're located in the Market Garden area of Werribee South, and we represent the businesses and community of that area. So we are advocating for the duplication of Hoppers Lane South in response to the proposed Duncan's Road Princess Freeway interchange upgrade. Where is it located? Hoppers Lane South extends from the Princess Freeway via the Sneeds Road interchange to Duncan's Road. It is currently a single lane, dangerous carriageway with muddy shoulders and blind corners at several bends along its path. Recently, we've had a fatality on this road. It provides access to and from the full Diamond interchange from our rural precinct to Melbourne and Geelong, also allowing access to Point Cook. Hoppers Lane extends south through the proposed East Werribee precinct to Duncan's Road and into Wyndham's coastline and tourist precinct of the south. The aerial view.
Next.
Okay. Well, the aerial view's not there, but that's okay. We'll have to all imagine where it is.
I can't see the bay.
Okay. So the point I was going to make with that, not to confuse it with the Hoppers Lane North, which has already been funded by council. So why is it important? You don't have that in? Okay. The state government has announced that Duncan's Road interchange will now be funded as a full Diamond interchange. As yet, we have not seen any community presentations on the project. However, we believe that Vic Road's interactive site shows the extent of the project. We request that council consider the impact that construction will have on our local roads during the planned upgrade, including detours and alternative routes, as this could severely impact agricultural activity. Werribee Mansion major events, polo, and Wyndham Harbour events and emergency ready scenarios. Large events can attract thousands of vehicular traffic movements coming on and off the current Duncan's Road exit to K Road and Duncan's Road. Vehicle types include cars, B-dub trucks, buses, boats and horse trailers, and most importantly, emergency vehicles. Hoppers Lane South, as it stands, is not suitable for this type of volume of traffic that's expected. It has been reported by Vic Roads that up to 1,000 vehicles use this exit daily and more during events at the tourism precinct. We have been told that this road would be built
60 seconds, Marissa.
Yep, as part of the East Werribee development. However, we have had no advice on the timing of the project. Community communication and timing is vital in this precinct and should no longer be delayed. In conclusion, we request that a traffic impact assessment be conducted in conjunction with other governing authorities to ascertain the adequacy of the existing road capacity and the safety considerations during construction of Duncan's Road Diamond interchange. We request an intersection capability analysis for the intersection of Hoppers Lane and Duncan's Road during expected peak hour detour traffic loads. We advocate to local council to bring forward the widening of Hoppers Lane South to allow for a 2-lane bitumen carriageway as an alternative feeder road onto the agricultural and tourist precinct before the planned interchange road work goes ahead.
Yep. Time's up, Marissa.
Thank you.
I think you got the message out. Councillors, obviously a pretty important interchange one day that'll be done there, I suppose. Questions? Self-explanatory. You must have done a good job.
Great.
Thanks, Marissa.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, councillors, that's the end of the submissions, and I will now require a motion to resume standing orders. So can I have a mover? Councillor Gibbons, and a seconder. Councillor Hooper. Councillors, all those in favour? It's carried. Oh, good. Now, is there any confidential business, Madam CEO?
No, Mr Mayor.
Okay, then I declare this meeting closed at 8:40 p.m. Councillors, we will now, if I can gather all my paperwork. Councillors, we're almost on time. So I'm going to move to the ordinary meeting of council, and we will now start the OCM for the Tuesday the 13th of June. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the ordinary council meeting of Wyndham City Council this Tuesday 13th of June 2017. And in the spirit of reconciliation, before we begin this meeting, I acknowledge the peoples of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which Wyndham is being built. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Please stand for the opening prayer of the ordinary council meeting. We pray for guidance in the council's decision making to achieve the best outcome for the people of Wyndham. Please be seated. I would again like to welcome members of the gallery, press, councillors and staff here tonight for the ordinary council meeting. Some of you may have seen the notices in the foyer, but for those of you who didn't, I would like to make you aware of the following. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the internet. The recording will be archived and made available on Council's website. Whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. I'll start with apologies and requests for leave. There are none.
Mr Mayor, there are none.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3. Declaration by councillors of disclosure of conflict of interest or conflicting personal interest in any item on the agenda. If there's none, we shall move on. Item 4, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a mover of that, please? Councillor Maynard. And seconded, Councillor Gibbons. Councillors, any discussion on that? If there's no discussion on that item, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Any deputations and presentations, Madam CEO?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go on to item 6, officers' reports. And the first item is item 6.1.1, petition access road between Middle Park Drive and the address estate Point Cook. Do we have a mover? Councillor Khan, and seconder Councillor Hooper. Okay. Councillors, any discussion on that item? No, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Councillors, item 6.1.2, petition and installation of safety features due to speeding cars in Latham Street, Werribee. Do we have a mover? Councillor McElhaney. A seconder? Councillor Hooper, I saw your hand up there. Well done. Thank you. Councillors, any discussion on that petition? No. If not, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. The next item of business is 6.2, strategic reports. There are nil. The next item is 6.3, policy and advocacy. So it's 6.3.1. Council submission on the State Government review of the Municipal Association, which is the MAV Act. Do we have a mover? Councillor Gilligan. A seconder? Councillor Maynard. Councillors, discussion. Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I might be brief on this, and I think if you take due consideration to the content within this particular document, one of the things that I think is fundamental is the independence and ongoing independence as a statutory body that the MAV is, and making sure that that's strengthened and enshrined in the proposed legislative changes that are before you. I think it is important for a number of reasons, most namely being that having a local government statutory body that will argue on the basis of facts and evidence and be largely devoid of ideological political positions is critical for local government. Take the case in point, our argument on 15 hours of kindergarten funding and the importance of taking the state and federal governments to account on their level of investment that is required. There are also other areas, whether it be looking at rate capping, to some of the more fundamental things that go on behind the scenes that councillors don't necessarily get to see in the operational side of council, but are critical in terms of the lobbying efforts that are done in terms of this particular statutory body. So I absolutely endorse the document that is before us. I think it is absolutely critical, as I've stated and have emphasised, that we have a body that can fight for us and ensure that there is no ministerial capacity to come in over the top when it's of the interest of either political party of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Any other discussion, councillors? If not, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. The next item is 6.4, Strategic Town Planning, which there are nil reports. So we'll go to item 6.5.1, Road Management Plan Review. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hooper. A seconder? Councillor Shaw. Councillors, any discussion on the Road Management Plan Review? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As outlined in the officer's report, Council is required to review the plan within 6 months of every term. I would also like to note that we have not received any public submissions on the plan since it was released after our April meeting. This road management plan is a very complex document, but in essence it deals with our intentions to repair and intervene in our road and related assets like footpaths. While inspection, response and maintenance standards and ensuring our levels of service are deliverable within available resources might not be as a sexy issue as I know many residents get involved in our local roads and footpaths. But I think the fact that we have not had any public submissions is a sign of faith in the level of service we're providing. And I endorse the observations from other councillors that on a whole we are increasing our level of service in most other areas as part of adopting this reviewed plan. In particular, I note our intentions to inspect roadways, street trees, street lighting more regularly, and people can see the exact detail in the table attached to the officer's report. In closing, Mr Mayor, I'd like to reiterate my view that the community has overall faith in how we manage the actual condition of our road and related assets. There will be different views from time to time, but I have already seen in my short time as a councillor that we try and work through these issues with our local residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Any other discussion, councillors? Yes, Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am speaking in favour of this motion tonight because our reviewed road management plan guides how we maintain our assets in streets and how we respond to reports of damaged assets, as Councillor Hooper has outlined. It also sets timeframes in which we need to respond to reports of damage and the intervention levels at which we will replace or repair street assets such as footpaths. My main interest in this topic, Mr Mayor, is the issue of nature strips. Since I discussed this at one of our previous OCMs and the subsequent article in the local paper, many residents contacted me about nature strips, footpaths and property issues. They still do. I would like to thank residents for taking the time to raise these issues with me, as we need residents to let us know about damage to nature strips and footpaths so we can arrange repair, and if a nature strip is overgrown, we can talk to the residents about their obligations. Council can also organise to enforce illegal parking on nature strips. I've also spoken to council officers about ensuring we, as council, maintain a high standard in our obligations too. Our nature strip officer has responded to 412 customer requests relating to nature strips between 1 January and 31 May. The officer has also attended to 169 other sites, and these proactive audits were carried out over 88 streets throughout the municipality in problem areas. As of 1 May, we have added extra resources to this area, increasing the proactive inspections and actions from 99 for January to April to 71 in May alone. In the last 12 months, there have been more than 1,200 service requests from the community for works on our roads that we responded to in compliance with our road management plan. This is in addition to the works requests generated by our staff in their inspections of our 1,300 kilometres of streets, also carried out in accordance with our road management plan.
60 seconds, please.
Oh, really? Residents can go to our website to look at our beautification of nature strips policy if they want more information. The policy does include what you can and cannot put on nature strips, which is part and also outlines the responsibility of residents and property owners. In closing, I do enjoy representing our residents and their concerns about nature strips, which is part of my representative role. Whilst some people may not think it is a big issue nor a strategic one, judging by the number of residents who contacted me and still do about this issue, I would say that it has become a problem in our community, one that still needs to be addressed. I'm very happy that I've been able to fulfil my representative role in assisting residents with their concerns, and I will continue to do that no matter how big or small the issue is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You made it by 1 second.
Oh, good.
Very good.
Lucky. Under pressure.
3 minutes goes pretty quick, doesn't it? Well, thank you, Councillor Hooper and Councillor Shaw. Is there any other discussion, councillors? Councillor Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. Suffice to say that this council spends somewhere in the vicinity of $30 to $35 million a year on its local roads, of which there is some 1,400 kilometres of those roads. That 30 to 35 million is in the context of a capital budget of 133 million approximately for next year. We get gifted each year approximately $240 million in assets from developers when estates come online, and a fair, some of that is roads. So I just wanted to put it in context of what we actually do spend. And if I had my calculator here, I'd probably work out that the money we spend is roughly a quarter of our total capital budget. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillors, any other discussion? If not, what I'll do is I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. The next item is 6.5.2, which is a new lease proposal for Power Core Electricity Substation at Williams Landing Reserve, Williams Landing. Do I have a mover? Councillor Khan. Seconder? Councillor Arm. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's important to have that Williams Landing Reserve connected with power supply. In order to connect the power supply, we need to have the power corp install the substations, and therefore the council is prepared to negotiate with them and give them the property assigned for the lease was at 0.10 cents per annum, and to go for 30 years. The lease signed with that power corp, and without that anyway, the reserve would not have the lighting facility. So we look forward to getting the contract signed and utilising the facility for our community.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No more further debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. We'll go to item 6.5.3, solar and lighting provided panel for business. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hooper. Seconder? Councillor Khan. Councillors, any debate? Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say a couple of things. Now, roads may not be sexy, but this one certainly is. The appointment of solar panel providers is another great step in reducing our greenhouse emissions as a city. We are empowering businesses to gain access to green technology, which will also help reduce their day-to-day operating costs. This initiative will add to the number of solar panels in the city, and might I add, Wyndham has the most solar panel arrays of any municipality in Australia. This adds to our national leadership in this space, and it's an awesome initiative, and I'm glad to see it happen.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Any other debate or comments, councillors? Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm really pleased to see this in this agenda tonight. I now have the portfolio for the environment, and this world has created the biggest monster, and we have to do something to fix it up. And I think this is a really good start, and I know that Wyndham has embraced the solar and lighting provider for panels, and this one for the businesses, because the businesses are the ones that usually have the great big roofs that the panels can be installed on. And I was down at the vet school the other day, and I couldn't believe the number of panels that were being rolled out down there. So I'm hopeful that the businesses will all take this program up and will support it, so that we can, as Councillor Hooper said, be a world leader in having solar panels. But I will say again, I'm really concerned about our environment, our climate change. We have to do something about it. We've created it. We have a monster out there, and we need to make sure that we will do everything to make sure we get our environment back on track, so that we're going to leave something for all of our young people in the future.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Any other debate, Councillor Khan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Western Alliance, which is Greenhouse Action with WAGA, includes the 6 Western Metropolitan Councils, which includes Moorabool, Geelong, Wyndham. And obviously the aim for West to creating this alliance has the core objective and reducing the Western region's contribution to the climate change, as Heather Mark has said, adapting to the climate changes which is impact. The WAGA, which is made up of 6 councils, aim to actually have low carbon Western strategy address to both. These objectives aim at developing the low carbon business sector in Western Melbourne, reducing the region's carbon footprint and supporting the business to thrive a carbon concentrated economy. The strategy was to deliver developing a panel, the panel of the solar and LED lighting supplies that the council could use to promote and recommend businesses. Firstly, it's important to also acknowledge the Western Alliance of the Greenhouse Action, which is facilitate these type of opportunities. This part of their low carbon Western strategies, which has a goal of developing profitable, energy efficient, low carbon business sector in the west of Melbourne. So not only is this good for the greenhouse gas reduction, a great support businesses is also promotes and develops the business in the west. Overall, the Wyndham rates will be battle to reduce the greenhouse gases emission, with our own Hopper Crossing having the largest number of the solar panel arrays installed in the Melbourne's metropolitan area. So I think we are great, and our council's leading in the entire of the City Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillors, any further debate? Councillor McAllen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that Council played its part at a recent business lunch in sustainability with Rob Gell on Friday. We had all local businesses here, and it was very successful. He was a keynote speaker, and he kept the audience enthused with some of the things that he was saying. And as Councillor Marcus said, we've got some concerns, but it was interesting, a number of the things that he said. I recently experienced on a scissor lift a program with the solar panels with the Environmental Minister, Lily D'Ambrosi, yes, so D'Ambrosio. So, yeah, no, it's certainly something that this council, probably more so than 4 years ago when I was on council, it's certainly an area that this council is serious about. Thank you.
Great, thank you, councillor. Any other debate, councillors? If not, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Councillors, the next item is 6.5.4 Financial Management Report, April 2017. We need a mover. Councillor Gilligan. Seconder? Councillor Khan. Councillors, any debate? Councillor Gilligan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And why am I not surprised? Several months ago, several elements of this report show that we have stood tall on some of the issues that are reflected in this financial management report. I'll start with the good parts before we get to the less than good parts. I think one of the good parts is in relation to the cost reduction on kindergartens for our council. Shifting the public and non-government organisation, NGO mix is important in being able to invest in our kindergartens. I know Councillor Shaw and I have a very strong interest in making sure that if there is any variance in that area, that we can look at continued strong investment in this space. Now I'm going to talk about the negatives. Firstly, around the high depreciation as a result of gifted assets. The Victorian Auditor-General's Office has to do something about this issue. When we look at our budgets, and for the ordinary punter in Wyndham, they're going to look at the operating surplus of this council and they're going to wonder why we look so rich. And it's completely not true. And this is a good example of what happens when we are gifted assets as revenue and then have to deal with it on the other side of the ledger with higher depreciation and as a result, higher expenses. The final issue I want to touch on is obviously in relation to the high costs of the landfill cells that we have to pay for. It is completely outrageous that the state government over the last decade or so has significantly ramped up the landfill levy and has a significant amount of money sitting in budget reserves, and we do not see a single cent of it. And let's be honest, these are ratepayers that are paying this cost, ratepayers, and they're not getting a single cent back. And then when you see in our financial management report that we're going to have to fork out more money to rehabilitate this site and then not get a single cent of it back through this levy, the question has to be, why does Wyndham City Council have to take responsibility for this increased cost when we're handing over millions and millions of dollars to a landfill levy? Let's put this in context. $140 million was handed through the landfill levy over the last 4 years to the Victorian government. $140 million. Now, I don't know too many local residents that would be aware of that, but that is a substantial amount of money that goes in a landfill levy and not a single cent of that comes back. And then you guys, all of us, go out there and we pay extra on our rates per annum to deal with having to rehabilitate a site that, again, we don't get a single cent back for. So the question really has to be, and I'm glad to see that VARGO, the Victorian Auditor-General, is looking at the landfill levy, and I know Councillor Maynard has a very strong passion in this area. How much are we prepared to pay before we ask the state government what our legal obligations are to have to fund the rehabilitation and whether we should consider lumping the cost on them? Now, how that looks is something that should be further investigated, and I know that this will come up in further times ahead, particularly given the MAV examining this issue, but more importantly, what are our legal obligations in this space? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilligan. Councillor Hooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I'd touch on something Councillor Gilligan discussed just then for the people at home and in the audience. The assets that are gifted to this council includes roads. Who in their right mind would think that a road is an actual asset? An asset's something like a house that appreciates in value or something that you can make use of. A road creates a burden for us to maintain and make sure is acceptable for use. So to include that as part of our income is just, well, in my mind, insanity. A road is certainly no asset. It's, well, it's an obligation that we need to maintain for our community. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Hooper. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I won't be that too much in detail. I'd just like to say the purpose of this financial management report is actually reporting the operating revenue of the council. I'm glad to say that we budgeted $249.8 million, and now we have actually received $259.4 million. So it's good to see that we have gone surplus. So that's the way that we are now reporting it. Also, though, operating expenditure, because it's important how much we're getting from the public money and how much we're expending it now. Also, we have budgeted $241.9 million, and we only spent it last, which is great, $232.9 million. Now, just quickly saying that, you know, why we have spent it less, I think the council have done a great job. It also says on page 184 or 114, the contribution to the favourable expenditure variation in 1.9 million for the lower employee cost. And that happened because of them towards 2040 structure have resulted in major changes in organisation structures at all levels. So there's been a saving being done, and we hope budget will be to 249.8, and it's gone to 259, which is great. So we now in great financial situation. We got $80 million surplus. So that's a good news for, and I'd like to say that, you know, councillors on track. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Any other comment or debate, councillors? If not, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Councillors, the next item is 6.5.5, Assembly of Councillors. Do we have a mover? Councillor Maynard. And a seconder, Councillor Hooper. Any debate, councillors?
I think it's self-explanatory, Mr. Mayor, we're all assembled, so it's all good.
Let's hope we are. Okay. Any other debate? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Item 7 is notices of motion. I believe we don't have any, Madam CEO.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Anything under council seal?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Any contract summaries? Item 9.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any questions with notice from the public gallery?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We do indeed have quite a large number of questions tonight, so I will ask you to bear with me, Mr. Mayor, while I read these through. I might start out, Mr. Mayor, by just noting that we have received a question that we're unable to provide a response to this evening, only because it relates to a petition that Council considered earlier that was tabled under 6.1.1, and it relates to the access road between Middle Park Drive and the Address Estate in Point Cook. So I am going to read that question out, but just note that it will be taken on notice and a written response will be provided following formal Council consideration of the petition on the 27th of June, which will be at the next ordinary meeting of Council. So this evening, Mr. Mayor, the question comes from Jen Jeng Go, and it relates to, as I mentioned, the petition 6.1.1. So there's two questions, so I'll read them in two parts. So the Wyndham Community Health, Wellbeing and Safety Plan 2013-2017 states that trees, parks and nature are an essential part of a healthy living in terms of physical and mental health, and that the design of neighbourhoods with levels of walking, cycling and use of public transport and influences our sense of community, positive mental health and susceptibility to depression and asthma. As residents of South Shore Gardens, Sanctuary Lakes, our children, grandparents, parents and pets utilise the parks and the walking paths around our estate to promote healthy and happy lives, and it's a great way to engage with the community and our multicultural neighbours. Can Wyndham City Council please explain how the decision to change a grassed walkway into a drive-through road connecting the Address Estate and South Shore Gardens, which will increase the movement of traffic and create dangerous situations for the pedestrians and families in the area, is of benefit to the health and wellbeing of residents? So, Mr Mayor, as I said at the outset, that's a question that we'll take on notice and provide a written response following Council's consideration of the actual petition on the 27th of June this month. So the second question, again relating to the petition 6.1.1, as residents of a secure estate where security and safety of our community is the most important issue, and we're constantly being informed of aggravated burglaries and assaults in the local area, the residents of South Shore Gardens, Sanctuary Lakes pay body corporate fees that contribute to the safety, security and residential amenity of our estate. Wyndham City Council subscribes to 6 principles in adherence to the State Government's Transport Integrated Act 2010. One of these principles is safety, health and wellbeing, which takes into account continually improved safety performance, minimised risk of harm and promote forms of transport which have the greatest benefit for and least negative impact on health and wellbeing. Why is the safety of security and the increase in traffic being ignored by Wyndham City Council with the creation of a through road between the Address Estate and South Shore Gardens, a secure and safe estate of Sanctuary Lakes? So again, in closing, Mr Mayor, I'll just reiterate that these questions will be answered in full in writing following Council's formal consideration of these matters at the meeting on the 27th of June this month, 27th of June. Okay, so thank you. And I did note too that Jen Go is actually in the chamber. I should have said that at the outset. So thank you for submitting that question. Thank you, Jen. Okay, Mr Mayor, we'll now move on to further questions. And as I said, we do have a number of these this evening. The next question, there's 2 questions here, but I will put them one at a time as I'll have 2 different directors respond to each of these. And this question's come from Henry Kaur. Is Henry Kaur in the gallery this evening? Thank you, Henry. So the first question, what is the council doing given the unemployment issues in Wyndham? So, Mr Mayor, I will direct this question through to Director Kate Roffey to respond.
Thank you, Madam CEO, and through you, Mr Mayor, of course. Thank you, Henry, for your question, and a very important question. It is unemployment and employment in general are some of the biggest concerns that we have, not only in Wyndham but also in Melbourne, and one of the easiest ways, for example, for us to relieve congestion on roads is to create employment in our own municipalities, and that is something that Wyndham City Council officers are working very hard on. As you will be aware, for a city the size of Greater Metropolitan Melbourne, with only around 4.68 million people, there aren't a lot of job clusters that are required. So we're working very hard to strategically plan for inbound investment in the Wyndham area, particularly in those areas that we know are going to be growth areas going forward in the future. So it would be remiss of us to go back and actually look at investing in what we would call older fields of employment that we know are not going to be fields of employment in the future. So we're working very hard to try and identify some of those particular areas that will lead to large-scale employment in Wyndham going forward. There are a number of state initiatives that you will be aware of are being discussed at the moment, particularly around the East Werribee Employment Precinct, and we are actively and very heavily engaged in discussions around employment in that area. I myself have just been in China for business for a couple of weeks and have been looking at particular opportunities that we may be able to leverage in an international perspective to build our employment base here in Wyndham as well. So we are working hard. It isn't an easy task. I will put that out there. It's not something that is going to be solved overnight, but we are working hard on this. We have an economic development strategy that's coming due for discussion with our councillors very soon, and we will be continuing to work on this very important issue full throttle going forward. Thank you very much for your question, Henry.
Thanks very much, Kate. Through you, Mr Mayor, the next question again is from Henry. What is Council doing in promoting multicultural and diversity? So I'll pass that one through to Director Jenny McMahon. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam CEO, and through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your question, Henry. There's a number of things we do to promote and I guess celebrate the cultural diversity of our community. One of the first things that we do have is our Cultural Diversity Portfolio Committee. So that's a significant committee in terms of looking at the sorts of actions and events and things we might do here at Council. We have a very, very good community grants program, and through that community grants program we support many, many community groups, and a lot of them are looking at, you know, they have a number of events and festivals that we support through that program. We have our art gallery, which has numerous different exhibitions throughout the year, and through that, those art exhibitions we celebrate the diversity of this community and others. We do make sure that we try and engage as much as we can with all of the diverse parts of our community. So we certainly look at all the different ways of our communication and our marketing and make sure that we include people. We have a range of community dinners that we've been running over the last 12 months or 2 years to engage with particular groups, and particularly to hear and understand from those groups what are some of the things that Council could be doing. And we look at supporting a number of different businesses, and certainly through some of our, for example, Enterprising Tarneet was an opportunity for a whole range of people from our community to learn skills in developing and building small businesses. So there's a whole lot of things. I could talk more. There's quite a lot on our website, but we'd also be interested in hearing from you if you've got any ideas that you think you could share with us.
Thanks very much, Jenny. Through you, Mr Mayor. We have another 2 questions now from Greg Lehman, who's in the gallery this evening. Thanks, Greg. So the first question relates to the Point Cook Community Centre redevelopment, and when will the building actually start on the redevelopment of the Point Cook Community Centre? So that's question 1. The second question is, why haven't community groups who attend the centre been updated on progress timelines of the finish date so that they could plan for the 2018-2019 year? So again, Mr Mayor, I will refer that to Director Jenny McMahon to respond to.
Thank you, Madam CEO, and through you, Mr Mayor. I didn't see where Greg was.
Just in the second row.
Just in the second row. Hi, Greg. So we're expecting the construction or the works there to start sometime mid-2017, which would suggest it's about now. I'll get back to you with an actual date. I'm guessing that we're probably out to tender for builders now as we speak, but I'm happy to come back to you with some definitive dates on that. And in terms of community groups not being updated, I'm surprised to hear that. I'm assuming that you're part of a community group there, and so you feel you're not getting information. I understood that all the groups had been advised of the works, given information about when the construction would start, any requirements for groups to move out of there. So if that's not happening, and I'm guessing from your question it's not, I'll certainly follow that up with our officers tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have another question here from Margaret Waddell. Margaret Waddell, is she in the gallery? Thank you, Margaret. So this question relates to sort of higher density development in Wyndham. So Wyndham, and this is quoting from the Wyndham City Council document, People and Community, Wyndham will be a welcoming, family-friendly city that acknowledges the Aboriginal heritage of the area, encourages connection with the community, promotes health and wellbeing, and actively celebrates diversity, culture and art. We will be a council that listens to and learns from the diversity, knowledge and opinions of all residents. And as we embrace growth, we will also remember the country beginnings of our town and shire. Ratepayers are experiencing and objecting to the resultant extra noise, rubbish, parking on sidewalks and centre medium strips in the short term and in the long term loss of community as a result of high density development in Wyndham. These are civil matters. Nevertheless, they are all the direct result of the implementation of these council policies. So the question is, what is the council doing to address the concerns of the ratepayers who see their surroundings radically altered as a result of the new planning policies of high density development going on in Wyndham? So through you, Mr Mayor, I will ask Director Kate Roffey to respond to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam CEO, and through you, Mr Mayor, once again. Thank you, Margaret, for your question on this incredibly important issue. Urban infill, it doesn't matter which municipality you live in, is a question that is highly contentious wherever you go. It depends whether you're someone who wants to perhaps have an affordable house, or whether you're someone who lives in an area that might have a bit more space around it, as to whether you tend to agree with urban infill or not. I will say that as council here, we are actually in the process of undertaking a neighbourhood character strategy review that's been out, and many of you will be aware that public consultation has been taking place on that strategy, and that will be reviewed and implemented and brought up to councillors for consideration. When we as council officers take into consideration urban infill and densification, there are a number of forces that we have to consider. One is the state government and the Victorian Planning Authority, and as part of the state and federal government's push for housing affordability and more affordable housing, we are getting pressed very hard to develop residential dwellings in this area quickly, and that includes infill. One of the key reasons we undertake urban infill is that usually most densification takes place around amenity, and it is unfair to have new residents, for example, being forced into areas where there is no amenity. So we try to densify in areas, for example, along public transport corridors, or near areas where there may be city centres, for example, and you've got access to services. So that's why you tend to see urban infill happening around already established areas. We do try and balance it. It is a balancing act. There will always be people who are happy. There will always be people who are unhappy. But as council officers, we give our best recommendations to our councillors to plan strategically with the interests of as many residents as we can in mind. And that is the attitude that we take to all our deliberations, including urban development.
Thank you. Again, through you, Mr Mayor. We've got a range of questions now that relate to heritage. Some of them are quite detailed, so we may need to take some of these on notice, but some we'll be able to answer straight up. So if I could just go to the question from Leonard Waddle, and Leonard's in the gallery this evening. Thank you, Leonard, for your question. So firstly, there have been a number of heritage items issues lost in recent years from Old Werribee. So for example, Ison House, the Picture Theatre, Kendall's Ironworks, the original hospital, Knight's Department Store, the Bridge Hotel, the Manor Bunya Pine in Waddlemulla Avenue. It's interesting to note that in Yakandanda, the whole main street has been declared a heritage zone. I understand that similar proposals are not all that practical in the municipality, but some attempts should be made to preserve our heritage items. Has there been consideration to appoint an expert historical consultant to review particular heritage issues for preservation relating to local European history? So Leonard, I'll, through you, Mr Mayor, respond to that question. So you've raised a number of issues here that sort of relate to cultural heritage as well as heritage as per the Planning and Environment Act. And council does, certainly through its planning scheme and the implementation of its planning scheme, consult with heritage architects as part of consideration of applications that refer to heritage sites as per the Environment Planning and Environment Act. But I think what you're also talking about here is council's investment to actually preserving sort of cultural sites and cultural aspects to the city beyond just those planning matters. It's fair to say that this particular council have had, a heightened interest and focus on heritage, and the detail of what we're doing in that space is really articulated through, and it's currently being worked up really through the portfolio committee that's chaired by Councillor Tony Cooper. So it's the first time we've really had a portfolio that focuses on arts, culture and heritage specifically. So what I'd like to do, Mr Mayor, is actually provide a detailed written response, just detailing some of the more specific things that Council's implemented more recently in regards to protecting heritage and promoting heritage throughout the city, including some of the things that we're actually doing through Director Roffey's area in relation to, you know, how we can look at procuring or sort of looking at reuse of the cinema and so on. I mean, there's a whole range of things that we're looking at doing to create, you know, more dynamism in Werribee CBD and sort of trying to, I guess, create things that once were that have got value to the community moving forward. So these are certainly things that we're looking at exploring all aspects of at the moment. So we will provide a more detailed response to you in writing, detailing some of that. So thank you for your question. Mr Mayor, the next question is from Jeff Rogers. Is Jeff Rogers still in the gallery? Hi Jeff, that's right, you presented earlier, nice to see you again. Does Council appreciate the tourism potential in many historic and natural areas of Werribee currently undeveloped and unrecognised? So for instance, the manor environs. So Jeff, we will need to take this specific question on notice. I don't believe myself or the directors will be across some of the detail concerning manor environs particularly, but really happy to explore that. And I guess what I've said in my previous response sort of covers some of that off in terms of our interest in heritage and maintaining that. But we will provide a formal response to you with some more detail, particularly pertaining to that manor environs area. So thank you for your question. Thanks, Mr Mayor. One final question sort of relating to, again, the preservation of heritage, again from Julie Rogers. So Julie's in the gallery this evening. Thanks, Julie. What financial provision has been made for the preservation of our heritage, both Aboriginal and European, as well as historic artefacts, both man-made and natural, e.g. the manor and its surrounds from the former residence of Percy Churnside, one of the pioneer families? So, Julie, given the sort of the nature of that question and the detail, I will need to take that on notice and provide a written response to you. Thank you. So, Mr Mayor, the next question is from Mr William Strong, and I can see Bill in the gallery this evening. So this relates to the Bridge Hotel in Watton Street. So it relates to the special meeting of council held in December 2016, and it was the approved planning permit and included reference to the proposed West End car park. Page 41 of 168 of that meeting's minutes stated that council intends to construct a new West End car park with 180 to 200 spaces on the former Bridge Hotel and Toyota sites. These sites were recently acquired by council for the purpose of providing additional public car parking to offset the loss of public car parking during the construction of Catalyst sites. Please advise if council's intention is to demolish the Bridge Hotel. So through you, Mr Mayor, I will pass that question through to Director Kate Roffey.
Thank you through you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Madam CEO, and thank you for that question, Mr Strong. You are indeed correct. We procured the Toyota and the Bridge Hotel sites in order to provide car parking space when we are required to take over our Catalyst site development for the period during which they're being developed and new public car parking being built in those particular buildings. The Bridge Hotel, of course, came with the site. We are currently, officers, working on plans for that entire site, including development of the car parking as required and the Bridge Hotel. And while I cannot preempt any decisions that may be made, there isn't at this time an officer recommendation to demolish the Bridge Hotel included in that report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The next question also relates to a heritage item, and this question's from Amanda Ma. Is Amanda in the gallery this evening? Thank you, Amanda. So this question again relates specifically to the Manor House. It's our understanding that around 5 years ago an amount of $40,000 was set aside for the purpose of preserving, recognising and showcasing the Manor House, original columns and the remnant vegetation of its European garden. For example, the fig and elm trees trees in Watamolla Avenue, which are believed to be over 100 years old. What action was taken as a result of this allocation of funds? So Amanda, I will need to also take that question on notice, again, just because of the detail, and I just need to make sure that we provide the right response. So we will take that on notice. So thank you for your question. Mr Mayor, the next question again is from Mr William Strong. The heritage wooden grandstand in Churnside Park was deconstructed as part of planning permit. I won't read out the exact number, but the planning permit associated with Churnside Park. Could Council please advise what are the current timelines for the reconstruction of the old wooden grandstand? So through you, Mr Mayor, I'll hand that question across to Director Jenny McMahon to respond to.
Thank you, Madam CEO, and through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question, Bill. I actually haven't got the timelines in front of me, but I'm really happy to find those out in the next day or two and get back to you in writing.
Moving through to the next question. This is from Ian McGowan. Is Ian McGowan in the gallery this evening? Hi, Ian. This question is quite detailed and relates to the establishment primarily of Target's headquarters at Williams Landing. So I will sort of talk through some of the detail and then move straight to the question. So as we know, the development of Target's head office at Williams Landing marks a significant step in the area becoming a major activity centre. However, the approved plans include just 384 permanent car parks for the 850 staff. The area is already suffering from parking constraints as recognised in statements from councillors who have called for additional car parking at transport hubs such as Williams Landing. Analysis by economist Macro Plan estimates Williams Landing could potentially accommodate between 13,000 to 21,000 white-collar jobs by 2031. The 2013 Victorian Integrated Survey of Travel and Activity found that 82% of journeys to and from work in outer suburbs were conducted by drivers. These reports indicate that between 10,600 and 17,000 workers might drive to Williams Landing. The Wyndham Planning Scheme requires office developments in Williams Landing to provide just 3 parking spaces. If developed on the same square metres per worker as the Target head office, this could lead to 5,000 to 7,500 more drivers than car parks. Given current constraints and this looming shortfall in parking, does Wyndham City Council have any plans to acquire a site in Williams Landing for the provision of a permanent long-stay car park? And what strategies does Wyndham City Council have in place to ensure that adequate permanent parking is available in Williams Landing for workers? So, Mr Mayor, I will hand this question through to Director Kate Roffey for a response. Thank you.
Madam CEO, and again through you, Mr Mayor. Look, car parking is a difficult issue wherever you go, particularly around train stations. While we're not specifically working on acquisition of a car park area in that particular space at this point in time, we are looking at broader car parking strategies in key areas around the municipality, and Williams Landing is one of them. We don't have full information yet on the full utilisation of the Williams Landing site, so I won't make comment and preempt the specific details of that strategy and the potential recommendation that may come out of that as yet until we have all that information to hand. I will note, however, that I think just looking at provision of more car parking in key areas is a short-sighted strategy. We are indeed looking at other ways that we can actually get people more efficiently and effectively to major areas, including transport hubs, rather than having to drive and park there. That's an inefficient use of space around key areas that are near transport hubs. Some of those initiatives we're looking at are better transport options, for example, bus services that run smaller loops and take you more efficiently and effectively to public transport hubs. Park and ride services, so the parking may be further away, but shuttle buses or some sort of effective link to get you to a train station, for example, could be used as opposed to everybody parking at the train station itself. So we are being a little bit more broad in our thinking of the long-term solution here rather than just providing parking. I will also note you particularly pointed out Target there. That sits under a state planning framework, those requirements, so council has limited control, and while I can't talk about the specific details of permit applications that may be being considered, I can advise you that Target are in fact providing more parking than they are required to under those framework requirements. So they are actually doing the right thing here as opposed to the wrong thing. So we are working on it. Certainly Williams Landing is not the only place that's impacted by parking difficulties across the municipality, and certainly Wyndham is not the only municipality that is impacted by these issues of where to park, particularly to catch public transport. But as I said, we're taking a much broader view of how we can manage this in the long term, not just the short term.
Thanks very much. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question from Sunhill Abbott. Is Sunhill still in the gallery? No? Okay. I have a question from Ghana Sham Shakariki. Is he in the gallery this evening? No? Okay, thank you. I have a question from Raja Balani. Is Raja Balani in the gallery this evening? Okay, thanks very much for that. So those questions where we don't have sort of people asking the questions in the gallery will be responded to in writing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Councillors, we'll move on to item 11, which is Councillor Delegates' reports. So 11.1, Councillor Delegate reports. Do we have a mover? Councillor Maynard. Seconder. Councillor Hooper. Councillors, any debate on the reports? If there aren't any, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Any urgent business, Madam CEO?
No, Mr. Mayor, there is not.
Right. Councillors, item 13 is confidential business. I'd like to ask for a motion, please. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move that pursuant to section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989, standing orders be suspended and this meeting of council be closed to members of the public in order for council to discuss confidential business.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Khan. Favour? Looking for 10 hands. 10 hands. That's okay, thank you. Doors open. Thank you. Now we need a confirmation, councillors, the recommendation of the closed meeting of council with regard to confidential matters be adopted. A mover. Councillor Khan. A seconder. Councillor Cooper. Any discussion? No. I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. And councillors, I declare this meeting closed at 9:40. That's a quick one.
Well done.